Good morning. We're going to call to order the morning session for the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners for April 9th, 2024. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have approval of the business agenda first.
I don't know if my seatmates would like it added to the business agenda or just bring it up during unfinished business, but I would like to talk about the town hall a little bit and get a little more of those logistics worked out.
Okay.
If you want to add it to, that's fine. If you just want to bring it up during unfinished business, that's fine too.
Anywhere that you'd like to
I'd just like to make a short comment before public comment.
Okay. And you're not opposed to where we put that? Just bring it. Okay.
I can make a motion. Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the business agenda, adding town hall discussion under unfinished business.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. So we'll enter.
Madam Chair.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
In light of recent public discourse, it is vital that we clarify a few points before public comment. As representatives of the county, whether elected officials or staff, our words carry significant weight. It is essential that we exercise caution when addressing recent developments concerning the county jail. While there may be a desire to discuss specific incidents publicly, we must carefully consider the legal implications of our statements. Publicly discussing ongoing or potential litigation could exacerbate the situation and increase the county's exposure to further legal risks. Therefore, I implore you, before making any public remarks on specific incidents, it's imperative that each of us consult with legal counsel as well as the risk management team. Failing to exercise discretion could lead to additional complications and potential personal liabilities for each of us.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Public comment. So we have people visiting in the chambers, and we'll call you forward. And please be sure to sit at the table and state your name and where you're from so we can record it. And the same for on Zoom. When you're called, after you raise your hand, make sure to let us know who you are and where you're from. Ready? Good morning, Gabrielle. You get to go first today.
We the people have a voice in the safety and well-being of our county, and that includes not letting people suffer or rot or die in our jails. He attempts to explain what away any responsibility that was seen in last week's meeting really need to get addressed. There is something about seeing repeatedly and knowing that something is wrong and doing something to right that wrong that needs to be addressed. And you cannot spend your time pointing fingers at other people. There were situations that were bad, that were happening, and that you just have to get involved to change that outcome. This is about the actual care of the victim that laid in the jail rotting. You cannot talk about an entry log for the showers that you wrote down that you asked the person to care for when she is literally being left to rot. This is not about your lunch. You're a union member. If there is a situation where you're not getting lunch, this is between your union and this is between your management. This is not about lovely bear huggers or people that are lovely working in the jail when that victim, unless you're logging how many hugs that victim got. This is not about the victim being responsible for calling her lawyer when she can barely hold her head up or speak. This is about people doing the right thing. And again, the victim blaming is unacceptable. This is about the humanity that needs to exist when you look at a person and you see that they need something different, and yet you don't do the something different. This is about the outcomes of Native Americans in your jail, as opposed to your Stockholm Syndrome jailmates that gave a glowing report of how well they're doing. And the contrast is that you are capable of doing right by some inmates while you let others rot. And this is about us as a community coming together to right those wrongs. And if there is a systemic problem, then address that systemic problem in the place it happened first. And if there are outside agencies not coming up to the plate and doing the right thing, then address those policies of those outside agencies as needed. But do not walk away from your responsibility of what you saw and did not do. Deal with that head on and change the policies on the books in your jail so that this never happens again. And honor these victims and see them as victims and respond accordingly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gabby. So in the room, go ahead.
Candy Magnuson, Goldendale. I just have two questions. Has there been an outside investigation? And if so, who with? And the second question, has any of you guys been to jail yet and check it out? Thanks.
Thank you. Back online, W.J. Morris.
Good morning, Klickitat County Board of Commissioners and staff. I wish to draw your attention to the June 7th, 2023 letter from Kaplan Kirsch Rockwell LLP, Denver, Colorado, authored by Stephen L. Ossett, attorney at law, in which he outlined and reiterated to the FAA and all signature parties the validity of the entire Columbia Gorge Regional Airport well WSA contract that exists between Klickitat County, Washington, the city of the Dalles, Oregon, and the Dalles-Fort Water District, and also covers the WPSIA contract between the above parties. Today, the budget deficit that Klickitat County has can be alleviated by complying with all articles of these contracts. As an example, in front of Klickitat County Planning is an open file for the first of 3 phases of development on the Dalles-Fort Peninsula that will provide much needed housing and commercial space to the Columbia Gorge and desperately needed tax base revenue to Klickitat County. As for phases 2 and 3, the Dalles-Fort Water District does not have access to our water under the above contract, so we cannot help move those phases of the project forward onto the tax rolls. The next example is developers are now prepared to invest $209 million in housing construction costs that will be sold for a minimum of double the investment value, and this does not include the land value or the land value increase that will exponentially impact the long-term tax revenues coming to Klickitat County. The Dalles-Fort Water District does not have access to our water under the above contract, so we cannot help move this project forward onto the tax rolls. The Columbia Gorge Regional Airport needs fire flow, and this fire flow must be pumped from their 54% allotment of the well per the above contract. The Dalles-Fort Water District does not have access to this water to fulfill this required need. We face a large influx of workers into the region with 900 permanent jobs coming to the gorge over the next 10 years. And Klickitat County must do everything we can to capture this influx and grow the tax base and revenues for the benefit of Klickitat County. As a reminder, every municipality in the Gorge Scenic area cannot expand their city limits until the urban growth boundary area, that is the Dalles-Fort Peninsula, is built out. The following cities are being affected: Bingen, North Bonneville, Stevenson, and White Salmon, Washington, Cascade Locks, Hood River, Mosier, and the city of the Dalles. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, WJ. So back in the room. Thank you.
Good morning, County Commissioners. My name is Patty Cooper. I've been a resident of Klickitat County for 23 years now. I am retired now after 32 years of law enforcement and criminal justice employment. I'm invested in this community, belonging to several organizations, including the Klickitat County Sheriff's Posse. I came to say that this is a grievous mistake you're thinking of and planning on in shutting down the Klickitat County Jail. It is not good for Klickitat County, and it's a devastating loss to know that 16 valued employees will lose their jobs. They are dedicated employees, correctional officers that put their heart and soul into their jobs. I know many of them, and I know that they give 110% every day they go to work. Years ago, one agency that I worked for thought that they could save money by changing holding facilities. They were unhappy with the money that they paid out, and there were some irreconcilable differences. So they chose to move to another holding facility. That did not work out. And in about a year, they were back to the original holding facility. They found out that they were not saving that much money, and leaving their small town without law enforcement coverage while the officer was transporting was unacceptable. The grass is not always greener on the other side. All jails have their problems. All jails have attempted suicides, murders, deaths, assaults, sexual assaults occur. No jail is exempt. I hope and pray that you will reconsider and keep the Klickitat County Jail open. If there are problems in the jail, let's fix them and not shut down the jail and terminate these valuable employees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So Leslie.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Leslie Naramore, and I wanted to take a moment to reflect back on last week's public comment, where I heard a lot of misguided anger and excuses from the current jail leadership. While I was not surprised, I was very disappointed to hear the leadership of the jail, our sheriff and chief deputy, take zero responsibility for what happened on their watch. Employees who are going to be losing their jobs are being directed to blame the commissioners instead of the two people who are responsible for that, while they refuse to acknowledge their failed leadership. It's mind-blowing to me that Culp, the person who is immediately responsible for the health and well-being of the inmates, has already been reassigned and guaranteed a job. What about the other employees who have been there? What about those 16 employees? Doesn't Sanger care about them? I hope also that people can remember the humanity of the people who were harmed and their families, and that's why we're here today. If things continue with the transfer to Norcor, and I sincerely hope that they do, I'm curious if that opens up an opportunity for the former jail to be used as sober housing or as an inpatient treatment center. While Comprehensive was still serving Klickitat County, they had received a large grant to develop crisis stabilization services here. And then when they left, unfortunately, that did not happen. But if the county did choose to pursue this, that could open a potential new revenue stream. I hope that we as a county can start focusing on upstream services, because we know that many of those who are currently housed in the jail are currently struggling with mental health or with substance abuse issues. If we want to prevent recidivism, we need to provide services to help those who are struggling, and we need to start focusing on intergenerational solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Hey, Jerry.
Hi, I'm Jerry Starbuck, Trout Lake, Washington. I do not agree or support the decision to close our jail, but I do want to thank you for posting your agendas and recorded meetings online. During the March 26th session, all the commissioners stated they needed more information before any decision could be made regarding the jail. Yet within 3 days, on March 29th, a special meeting was called, a decision made to close the jail. In that meeting, Commissioner Anderson stated, "It's very rare I make a motion in which I don't have every bit of facts and figures behind it." Yet he did. This appears to be a hasty decision to limit possible county liability and to achieve budget savings without any input from the sheriff and his jail staff. Yes, inmates deserve a safe and humane environment, but why were they in jail? Was it drug-related? If so, has our staff been given the training and resources to handle these situations? Seems like they are doing the best they can with the resources they have, or in spite of the resources they don't have. There has not been enough information presented to indicate inmate rights were violated. What happened to innocent until proven guilty in regards to our jail staff? And what about the rights and safety of law-abiding Klickitat County citizens if our jail is closed? Seems like more weight was given to a few public comments from the same individuals demanding the board take action. Public comments last week regarding your decision, 6 in favor, but at least 55 against. Now, including me, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, speaking out against closing our jail. If our sheriff is over budget, is it due to mismanagement of funds or due to unforeseen, unplanned emergency expenses, like a water leak in the jail this past winter? When was the jail built? 1941, during construction of the courthouse? When was the last time it was renovated? The 2024 to 2029 capital improvements lists $1,825,000 for the courthouse, $385,000 for West End building, but only $50,000 for the jail, and not until 2026. I appreciate you for taking on the responsibilities as commissioners, but I think you should not forget you were elected by us and work for the citizens of Klickitat County, just like the sheriff. You say you listen and you care about your constituents. We'll do the right thing and keep our jail open. If you're not willing to do so, I agree with a recall and for voting out commissioners not in support that are up for re-election this year. And one last thing is, the Zoom callers are not saying where they're from. Thank you.
Anyone else on Zoom? 7211.
Greg Wagner, cease. Mr. Anderson, you have operated an illegal, unpermitted short-term rental for over 7 years at 58 Anderson Road. You charge $329 a night with a 3-night minimum. You make a lot of money. You refuse to trust the county process as required by Title 19 and to obtain a conditional use permit for this unpermitted short-term rental, which is in violation of the county zoning codes. You were told by Mochi Lindblad, the planning director, 3 times last year that you must obtain a conditional use permit, but you ignored her. Mr. Anderson, you tell all the citizens they must follow the enshrined trusted process while you decide you are not required to follow the same process. You are using your position as the commissioner to gain special privileges and exemption, which is in violation of RCW 42-23-070 number 1. This RCW is a Washington law. Mr. Anderson, you swore an oath to uphold the laws of Washington, and you are now violating those laws and your oath. On August 2022, 2 building code complaints were filed against your short-term rental at 58 Anderson Road, and they have never been investigated, which is a special privilege and exemption for you. On January 12, 2023, you voted to not investigate short-term rental complaints until the short-term rental ordinance was written, which has never happened. You are the only citizen with 2 short-term rental building code complaints filed against you, and a short-term ordinance is not needed for building code complaints to be investigated. You have a conflict of interest and you should recuse yourself in any dealings in this matter, but you have it, and that is unethical. This unethical conduct is normal for you. Pursuant to RCW 4236.080, I am demanding that Mr. Anderson be disqualified from any further involvement in anything to do with short-term rental discussions or decisions, and be disqualified from any involvement in supervising and directing the code compliance officer on other citizens' complaints. You are to be disqualified until your code complaint violations have been investigated and your violations are corrected, and until you abide by the county process and codes and obtain a conditional use permit for your unpermitted short-term rental. It is past time for you, the so-called leader, Mr. Anderson, to abide by all the county codes and state laws instead of violating them. Mr. Anderson, when will you start conducting yourself as a leader? You tell us why it's okay for you to violate county codes and state laws while all the citizens must obey them. What's your excuse this time? Lori and Dan, you constitute a quorum, and as the code compliance officer supervisor, I ask that you direct him to investigate Mr. Anderson's 2 building code complaints. Lori and Dan, do not fail in your sworn duties and have Mr. Anderson's 2 building code complaints investigated now. It's been a year and a half. It's time for those complaints to be investigated. Mr. Anderson, you need to start acting like a leader. Bye.
Thank you, Greg. Dave Barta.
Morning, Commissioners. Dave Barta, Goldendale. Conflict of interest, just the attention to conflict of interest is not enough. There can be no appearance of conflict of interest. This morning, I reviewed a June 2022 article regarding an investigation that the Sheriff's Office did regarding one of the members of this commission. I don't believe that member can continue to act in good faith in an adjudicative manner on this board regarding whatever actions happen with the jail. Last night, I was at a board meeting in this town where the chair of that board, which has fairly formal operating procedures, the chair of that board required the recusal of a member of that board based on the appearance of conflict of interest. I believe Chair Zoller has the authority to require the recusal of the member of the board who would have an appearance of conflict of interest based on Sheriff's Office investigation of 2021 and 22. And I have faith that Commissioner Zoller and Commissioner Christopher can come to whatever conclusion the others would have anyway after a full top to bottom review. Thank you.
Thank you. Back online, Rita Pinto.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my comment. I'm calling in this morning to follow up on public comment and also to voice my continued concern regarding how things are going with the jail. I recognize this is a very complicated issue for many, many people, and have a long history of working to build stronger communities in this county as a mental health professional and somebody who believes deeply that we can find a way forward in spite of our differences. So with that in mind, I want to say further that I recognize there's financial impacts across the board. I've heard all sorts of things from people about concerns of the litigation and concerns about the employees and how they may be impacted at the jail. And those are very real concerns. And I hope that you all as commissioners are working with the sheriff and all the people involved to find solutions to those financial situations. That's your job. With that being said, what I've seen in response to the concerns that the public is bringing forward is deeply, deeply concerning to me. This is now being framed as a political issue and people who are haters versus people who are not. And that has never been my intention. And I don't believe that's the intention on either side. This is not a political issue. This is about ensuring that the employees at the jail and the people who are being held there all have what they need to take the steps forward to make our community healthier. This is about humans being given their basic rights, whether that means healthcare, treatment, good training on the job, whatever it is, those things need to be in place. And when I hear people saying that they had no idea there was any issues, I'm shocked. You are the leaders of the jail. of the county, of our community. And these stories have been in mainstream news sites since November. The violations of human rights have been happening long before that. Many of them didn't hit the mainstream news, but they have been happening. And I believe that you are aware. It is not okay to hide behind "we didn't know." Everybody needs to come forward now and find solutions that will work and meet all people's needs. We know that 44% of people that are housed in local jails have mental health conditions. Yes, maybe they did things that caused them to be there that need to be addressed. And if we want them to return to our community and stop offending and stop hurting people, they need access to care. It's time to shift to upstream thinking and get people the help that they need. It's critical to our safety and it's critical to the well-being of our community. So I hope you will consider that as you move forward with your decisions.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you for your time.
I'm Larry Reed of Goldendale. I don't do Facebook, but I've been hearing conflicting points concerning the closure of the jail. So I just like to ask a few questions so I can hear it straight from you guys. The meeting that you had to vote on closing the jail, I guess that was on a Friday or something. Was that a regular meeting or was it a special meeting that you guys had to have? Because I've heard both. Was it a special meeting or? It was a special meeting, okay.
Mr. Reed, so you know, we always just move all the way through public comment and then allow time for the commissioners to take notes and answer all the questions afterwards.
Yeah, but
so they
don't
will
a lot of
address
those
it.
questions get lost in the shuffle doing
They
it that
won't.
way?
They won't.
Well, okay. So I'll go ahead and continue asking my questions then.
Thank you.
Okay, my understanding is that during that meeting, you gave Dan a packet so he could catch up with you to Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Zoller, so that he was on the same page as you guys with this jail closure, if I'm understanding that correctly. And see, to me, your silence is very disheartening because it tells me you have something to hide. And like I said, that the questions can definitely get lost, which is a sad thing. Dan, was the packet that you were given, was it complete enough to have enough knowledge to do a proper vote on this? Okay, so Commissioners Zoller and Anderson, all right, Dan says no, that there wasn't quite enough information. So how much time was spent putting this packet together for Commissioner Christopher? How much time? Was it a week, 2 weeks, month? What? See, I'd really like you to answer because everybody's listening and everybody wants an answer. And I'd put $100 bill on the table that they may not get answered at the end. Sir, we will answer. We have the way that we operate. So
Okay.
silence is not an admission of fault here. This is the process. So
Okay, this is
writing
my
all
first
these
time
down.
coming into a meeting, so
Thank you.
I'm very ignorant of the process, so I pray it all does get answered. So after time was spent, let's see. So then after he got the packet, you all voted as to close the jail in that meeting, if if I heard that correctly. So Mr. Commissioner Christopher, so then evidently you weren't privy to what was going on beforehand. Well, to me, that appears that there was stuff done behind closed doors without the full board being privy. And so it sounds to me like whatever was going on behind closed doors needs to be corrected to where all three of you get involved in this closure.
Thank you. I'm I'm so sorry.
No, you're
We
not.
stick to, yeah, we are. We stick to our process.
Thank you, sir.
You're more than welcome to reach out and visit with us with your questions. I'm usually here. So back online, Sherry.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Sherry.
Okay. First off, your processes are your processes you made up. They're not the processes of the people. So we'll just get to the point. This isn't the people's government. This is your corporation. This is the way you guys want to run it. You limit our speech. You tell us what we will and will not do. Okay. So you still can't answer my simple question. Does Klickitat County operate as a political subdivision, or do you operate as a municipal corporation? I'd like that answer. What hat do you wear? Also, are you doing this right? I like rules. We got this rule for our country and our states called the Constitution. And these are rules for you guys, how you are to operate as a government. And I haven't done all my research, but I have a question. Can the legislative body, or what are you acting as? Are you acting as legislative? Are you acting as executive? You're surely not judicial. I think the sheriff probably is judicial. So can your quasi, whatever you operate under in your corporational minds, can under the Constitution, the legislative executive body take away the powers of the elected sheriff? By the rules. What do the rules say? So I'd like that answered. What are those rules? And maybe Sheriff Bob can help me understand, because you guys are just doing stuff behind back doors. You have some agenda to get rid of the sheriff. Why? Because he protects the people, and you don't listen to the people. Obviously, the people have told you what they want, and two commissioners will do their own thing because you have the power to do what you want to do, regardless of what the people say. So you don't operate for the people. And also, I am requesting that Jake recuse and be eliminated from the process of this because of his investigation and other ongoing possible investigations of recent events. There's an agenda to get rid of our sheriff, and if you're being investigated or have been recently, you should not make those decisions. So you need to be taken out of the picture. And Commissioner Zoller, you need to take him out of the picture. And on the short-term rentals, gone. He's got too much conflict of interest. And with the hat, get rid of the hat, Jake. Your black hat makes you look even more like a criminal. So it's not doing you any favors. And I want that investigation for the building stuff on Jake's short-term rental. And where do you live, Jake? Do you live in Klickitat County? Where do you lay your head at night? Where do you reside? Because I have heard you live in Skamania County, and that's against RCWs. I could go on and on and on. And I would like an answer to when our county says our county is facing a financial crisis. Why don't you tell the people what that is, especially when you say you're coming after us for the money for your financial crisis? I'm sure my questions won't get answered. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room today? Oh, come up, please.
Good morning. My name is Tianda Chartier. I reside in Klickitat County. And I just wanted to say that I stand behind Patty Cooper's statement earlier. And I just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Back online, Chris Toey.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, thank you.
I want to thank everyone in attendance today and thank the commissioners. As a fellow elected, I understand the gravity of the situations you're faced. So I think this really goes back to the decision that was made to end the contract with Comprehensive several years ago, with no real foresight as to who was going to provide outpatient services for the county from a mental health and a substance use standpoint. And that really dumped all those clients on the county, on the jail, which is why you now see the influx in mental health clients in the jail. So that was really a burden that the commissioners, not necessarily all three of you saw, or you didn't really see the foresight in that. And so that's the burden that the jail is not prepared to handle. I'm not sure any jail is really prepared to handle all the mental health cases that they see, all the substance use cases that they see. And both of these significant instances that we're talking about here are both mental health cases. And it takes years, years and years and years of training to get people up to where they fully understand a suicidal client or mental health client. And I think it's really unfair to say they're not trained in mental health. You know, those are 2-year, 4-year degrees, and just saying, well, they haven't been to 2-week or 6-week training, that's really unfair to those COs, expecting them to know all the ins and outs of those things. And I just think that's really been overlooked. And I say a lot of people accusing, well, we don't have the resources in this community. They're right, we don't, and that's been dumped on the jail. So that's something that really needs to be considered. Is so now you're going to shut the jail. Things are worse. Now where are they going to go? So this situation is so much bigger than just the jail. We need more money put into mental health, more money put into substance use. It is a humane issue, but it's so much bigger than just the jail. And I just think it's really unfair to point all that at the jail and to dump all those problems on the jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room this morning? Adrian?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Adrian Bradford. I live down by in the gorge. I drove about 50 round trip miles today to be here, and the trip reminded me of how big this county is. And there's the thousands of people and across this huge county are the ones that elected you commissioners, thousands of us. And I certainly thank you for your service. That was a major decision. There were lots of other candidates, but you were selected because thousands of people believed that you were highly qualified, all of you. And I thank you again for your service. I'm surprised really to hear attendees here today challenging your decision-making or almost demanding other solutions to major issues that the county now faces. I use the word major because from what I read in multiple media, the county jail has had major lawsuit or lawsuits filed relating to jail issues. I'm no lawyer, but I know enough law to understand that when suits are filed, those officially involved as plaintiffs or defendants are prohibited from discussing precise details of those suits until after those cases are decided. As a member of the public, I can't possibly know how many legal details on these issues you face, so I won't pretend to inform you or wise enough to give you instructions on how to deal with them. But I have a basic question, which I know you have the authority, and I hope you have the ability to answer. Does the county have ownership and ultimate authority on the jail? I'm not speaking of the brick and mortar, but the entity called the jail.
Thank you, Adrian. Back online, anyone else online this morning? 0385.
Yeah, this is Delmer Eldred, Goldendale. And because of recent events, Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Zoller, you guys are really under the magnifying glass on what you do, on what is going on with your involvement in this issue. And first of all, it's been like beating a dead horse that you didn't go look for other solutions, have meetings with the public, meetings with the staff. And so, you know, the thing, the thing is, it looks like you're pandering to an agenda because there's a lot of people that are upset that they didn't get the sheriff they wanted, and they're using any vehicle they can to come after Sheriff Songer. And I mean, that's been pretty obvious. And but anyway, you know, there are a lot of things that you guys can do. I mean, they just passed $2.8 billion on the spending budget for mental health. Maybe you ought to look into it to see if you can get some money to help, because mental health is what is going to be a large problem in this county. And you can't shove everybody over to Norcor because it's going to be a growing problem, thanks to the state legislature not paying attention to what the outcome was going to be on their decisions that they make without really doing the same thing you guys are doing, is not looking at the future of what's going to happen. And so, you know, the thing is that I don't know what you guys need to either just set this aside until you get some more input and get things going, and make no decision on anything until you have the best consensus. And but you know, the thing is right now is you guys keep moving forward. You're looking at really close to getting a petition to maybe get other commissioners in there, because you two have got created a hornet's nest here, what you've done. And I can't believe that you didn't look at all the possibilities before you approached what you have done here and said that maybe we better step back, take a look at what we're doing, and get a hold of the community and the staff and work through this. And if you need money for this, you start sweeping the corners. You look at the state, you look at the federal, because mental health is a large issue. And it's, like I said, it's going to be growing. So you get some money together and start working on fixing the problem. And, you know, the thing is that if you guys keep pursuing the path that you're going, pandering to groups rather than looking at reality, I think your positions are going to be short-lived. And thank you.
Thank you. Back in the room. Come forward, please.
My name's Amanda Pennell. I'm from Goldendale. So I don't know if the jail should be shut down because I just don't know enough about it. And I know it's a complex issue, but it seems unlikely that a good decision could be made this hastily. It's clear that a full, unbiased, third-party investigation needs to be done into the conditions and recent situations at the jail one way or the other. But scattering all the jail employees and extraditing the inmates to another state will only hinder the investigation and potentially cover up evidence. Please don't make a final decision until an investigation can be made. And if it is determined that the jail should be closed, please set deadlines to make sure that that closure is temporary, because we do need a jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Online. Anybody asking this one?
Charles Gadway. Nope.
I'd like to speak. I attended the March 26th meeting when I heard Lori Zoller ask Sheriff Songer to talk about the elephant in the room, which was the situation in the jail. And the response that he made was that if the people didn't like the jail run the way it was, that they could sue him, or they could recall him, or they could vote him out of office. And he said the commissioners had absolutely nothing to do with running the jail. So what I don't understand is how you're supposed to work together with the sheriff and come up with solutions, which I think does need to happen. I'm hopeful that by taking this dramatic action and threatening to close the jail, that this will result in a discussion that actually tries to solve the problems that they have with the jail, because there are big problems there. And the sheriff needs to talk to the commissioners, and the commissioners need to work with the sheriff when he's willing to do it. I don't see how you can sit there as commissioners and say that you have nothing, there's nothing you can do because the sheriff likes the way he's running the jail. That's the only thing I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So back in the room. We have an opportunity still online. Tyrone, he just joined. Okay. Anyone else willing to give public testimony this morning or have questions? Okay. Seeing none, one more time in the room. Okay. Great. Trevor Edward.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners and everyone for holding this meeting. I've never sat in on a meeting. So this is my first time.
Trevor, where
and
are
I
you
think,
from? Where are you from? I'm
White Salmon, Washington.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've lived here for 12 years, community member. I'm friends with a lot of people around here, from the Krebs family to sitting at Dickey's, and I think I've actually had coffee with Bob Songer. And I'm also a kayaker. I'm also somebody that enjoys the outdoors and enjoys just the county that we live in and the country. What I would like to say and see more of is that the petty disagreements that people are raising at this commissioners meeting, that have absolutely nothing to do with the problem at hand, is a continued situation that brings our politics to a head. What we have here is a problem with mental health and our facilities to deal with those problems. And if there is a budget or money allotted for mental health in the state of Washington, yes, we need to work harder to find a solution. And we absolutely need to have a conversation. And the conversation has to be an open conversation where you disregard opinions and you listen to one another. And so if we're going to do that, we have to be more open-minded and start, having those conversations. And that goes for the commissioners, that goes for the sheriff, that goes for the citizens. We need to break down these little walls that we have and move forward. And we can, because there is a solution. There's always a solution. There's always a way to figure something out. But if we stay one-sided and continue to do that, we're always going to run into this situation where people are blaming somebody else for something that has nothing to do with why this meeting is being held. So I appreciate the time that you guys allot for these meetings and allowing me to speak. Doing my own research, so I don't know all of the details. So I will do my own research and listen to this meeting. And once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Trevor. Back to the room. All right, Shane Cagle.
My name is Shane Cagle. I'm from Goldendale. Maybe you can inform me. My public comments are really short. It seems like a lot of people only identify themselves by their first name. They don't say where they're from. I even noticed some of the Zoom callers identify themselves as Donald Duck. If there's an RCW that says for a public meeting that people need to, represent who they really are, rather than make a mockery of the county commissioners meeting, misidentifying themselves. I understand people want to make anonymous comments, but I don't know that that's allowed in public at a public meeting like this. So maybe you guys can clarify. It's kind of rude and disrespectful in my mind. So that's all the comments I have.
Thank you. Back online. Anyone checking? Not seeing anyone. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Don from Hanging Rock Road, Goldendale.
And what's your last name, Don?
Brian, Bryan.
Thank you.
Yep. So I bet Dave Sauter and Jim Sizemore and the other guy, I bet they're glad they're not sitting up there right now. With catching what you guys are catching. But anyway, I'd like to hear from the sheriff on the whole situation, which what we get out of him is he can't comment because of ongoing litigation. And even dating back to 2015, when they had the rape in the jail. I mean, this is what he never comes forward and talks about it. I just thought that it would be interesting for him to engage with people about it on the meetings. But anyway, yeah, and I thought Gabriella Gifford made a good point last week when she talked about if she left her mother with Alzheimer's in the condition that the gal was in the jail, she would be in the back of a handcar, handcuffed and hauled off and never heard from again. So I think that they should kind of maybe take that into consideration, the way that the people would be treated, just because they're there. I guess they think that they don't have to take care of the people, I guess. But the gal that did the record keeping that said there was 90 some refusals did say that they actually forced her to get, and I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing, forced her to get up and take a shower maybe. So obviously there are things they can do, because according to her own words, they did force her to get up and do something. And I believe it was to take a shower. So I do think there's a problem there. And is closing the jail the right answer? I don't know. But hopefully you guys can come to a conclusion that is best for the county and the residents of the county. So anyway, I guess that's about it. And Jake, I mean, you've come from good people. So, I mean, I know your parents, they're good people, known them for a long time. So don't take it personal what these guys are saying. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Back in the room. Was there someone I saw that wanted to speak? Great. Please come forward.
Name is Catherine Jackson. I'm a resident of Goldendale, Washington, and I work in healthcare. I've lived here since 92 or 93. And I'm not sure if it's been brought to anyone's attention about how the healthcare industry is working at this time. Since I believe COVID, it's gotten worse, but people's access has been denied through, it's there, they say it's available, but it's not. Accessing it has become quite the problem. And I'm seeing it affecting a lot of different things. I have in my hand right here, Washington Health Plan Finder. It came in my mail yesterday, and it reminded me that a lot of people don't realize that when someone becomes incarcerated, that they lose their health care if they have it, which puts the county on the hook for everything, mental health, physical, whatever. That should be amended. And I don't know if anybody's even tried, and this can't possibly be just affecting Klickitat County. I see in the future that it's going to close down every small county jail, possibly affecting small hospitals such as KVH, because they can't afford it either, but that's where they go. On an emergency basis, that's exactly where they're going to go. They can't turn people away on an emergency basis. It's against the law. So that's a problem. I see it, and I'm working in healthcare, and I'm seeing it from my end through senior services, things like that. The system's broken. and it needs to be taken to the state legislatures and it needs to change. I can understand why people would lose food stamps in TANF, but why are they losing their medical? That's at the state level. The county is taking the heat for it, and it's wrong. I see this as maybe running along the lines of defund the police. I don't know. I don't care. It's not right. They say they care about people's health, but they take it away from them because they become incarcerated. It needs to be fixed. I actually emailed Gina Mossberger about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Back online. Anyone else? We still have time in the room. Mr. Irick?
Ron Irick, Goldendale, Washington. Two items on the jail. I'd like to ask the board to please slow down. Make sure you identify what all issues / problems you think you have, then come up with the solutions to those problems. I wish you would involve sheriff. He is elected official, was over the jail. Please involve him in the procedure going forward. That's that item. Second item, positive note, Hale Construction is on the property. They showed up last week and working on the building at the fairgrounds. It looks like they're planning to have that completed by August 1st for the fair. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Back online. What number is that? Nobody's there. Okay. In the room? Anyone? So looking like one last time online and we'll conclude the public portion. So I think we're ready for commissioners. Mr. Christopher, would you like to start today?
I went first last week, but I will go ahead and go first this week and then I will defer next week.
Okay.
And I will take second next week.
Thanks.
To answer some of the questions for Candy, has there been an investigation? Not that I'm aware of, that I personally am aware of. Have I been to the jail yet? The answer is no. Not that they wouldn't want to see me, but in the last week, it's been very stressful for them because a lot of them thought or maybe still think they're losing their job 3 days from now. So I guess I would say keeping my distance and letting them go through the issues that they have and the grief they have, and that they don't need me over there standing on any kind of a soapbox. I have talked to some of them outside the jail, but I have not been to jail. I'm trying to be careful, so I'm not labeled contentious. Larry, Friday was a special meeting. How much time did it take to develop the packet? I don't know. I didn't have a hand in it. Sherry, can we take away the powers of the sheriff? The sheriff is given powers by RCW. The commissioners are given powers by RCW, and nothing in the commissioners' powers under RCW allow them to take away what is rightfully the sheriff's by RCW. Might sound kind of confusing, but if you read the RCWs on what powers commissioner has and what powers sheriff has, it'll explain it a little better. Mr. Tui, you mentioned that the county made a decision to end the contract with Comprehensive. I wanted to clarify that the county did not make a decision to end the contract with Comprehensive. Comprehensive, we were not even having discussions about potentially ending a contract with Comprehensive. Comprehensive chose to pull out of the county and issue us a letter, of which you can get from staff, stating as much. Adrian, you pose a good question. I'm sure we might learn some of that when we get to an executive session about this subject. Does the county have ownership of the jail? I guarantee you, we do have ownership of the bricks and the mortar. We do have access or ownership of the key card on who's allowed in the door and who's not allowed in the door. But as far as can we take the jail away? Do we get to decide? I believe I know the answer, but I haven't heard it from the prosecutor yet, so I'm going to hold off on that one. Dell, how the heck am I sitting here saying that you were the voice of reason? I don't know. But today, sir, I'm going to say you were the voice of reason. Amanda, young, but wise beyond your years. Your comments are very good. Keep engaged. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading some of my handwriting on some of this. Shane, oh, you mentioned public speakers, and we ask who they are and where they are and whatnot. And while I agree with you, it'd be nice to know who they are. We are allowed by state law to ask them to state their name and location for the record. We are not allowed to mandate that they state their name and general location for the record. So technically they can impersonate whoever they want, and they can be from Seattle. We try to state your name and location for the record, just because it's like, I think you believe it's the friendly thing to do. We need to know if somebody's, calling from Seattle or not, but technically under law, we're not allowed. Kathy, losing med coverage in jail, you're absolutely correct. That is a huge issue. That is an issue that I was working on when I was part of Washington State Association Counties last year. Jake is now on that this year. I know it's a topic of the county, Washington State Association of Counties, to get that law changed. It's running up against a wall because I believe the state looks at it as budgetary savings, because they've got to pay for their Obamacare or whatever you want to call that healthcare plan. So if they can save multi-millions of dollars by not having to pay for it, and they can pass that unfunded mandate on the counties, that's what our legislature likes to do, is pass on unfunded mandates. But it is something we're working on. Mr. Eyrig, slow down. I agree. The new building being built, that's a good thing. For any of you that don't know, he's on the fair board, so he was giving us an update on the new livestock building that was being built. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate everyone taking the time today to share your thoughts and concerns. Your input is invaluable as we navigate these challenges that are facing our community. Your concerns are duly noted, and we are taking steps to address them. Please, we still have 119 people on. There were nearly 200 people here last week. This today is the type of discussion that we want to have. The vast majority of this discussion is talking about the solutions. And the solutions are all encompassing. We have all in this community, and I've had many conversations with all of you about fixing the mental health problem, the substance use development problem. We have to think as a community about how we reshape how we deal with these situations. We know the jail has turned into our de facto mental health unit in the county. We know that the people who work in the jail do not have 2 to 4 years of training to deal with mental health and the costs associated with that. We know they don't have the substance use training in order that takes years to deal with that. That's what we're having the discussion on. That's the direction we're going. Candy, an outside investigation. Nothing I have ever found allows the Board of County Commissioners to conduct an outside investigation into the sheriff. I have not seen it in RCW. I have not seen it from anyone else. It is the sheriff as his own elected to conduct investigations, internal investigations into what happens within the jail. Larry, I said I would get back to you. I don't know where you're sitting. I can't see it. There you are. The conflicting points of closing the jail. Commissioner Christopher made the statement that he did not have the packet before that meeting, thus led you to the assumption that I did have the packet before the meeting. I was not presented the packet before the meeting. Staff had not given me the packet before the meeting. I was given it at the exact same time. The difference between Commissioner Christopher and I is when I heard about the meeting, I immediately contacted staff to find out what I could find out about the meeting so I could start preparing for it. When litigation is involved, when we're talking about millions of dollars of potential liability, and we know it's not just one, it's likely going to be two, millions of dollars of impact on the county that could easily exceed our limits for our insurance coverage, which would then be put on the taxpayers. And even if we do have to pay out, we know our insurance goes up. We all know how insurance works. If you ever get in an accident, usually your car insurance goes up or something. Stuff being done behind closed doors. That statement by itself created a pandemonium in the community that you're responding to, and I appreciate you bringing it forward because I would be just as concerned about you. I did not have meetings with Commissioner Zoller beforehand. That's not how we operate. Of course, in a situation like this where we know you're going to be under intense scrutiny, why would we do something that's illegal in its own right? That would put the whole thing into a questionable situation. Talking about politics. I don't believe anyone on this board has brought politics or personalities or people into the conversation. We are not talking about trying to get rid of a sheriff or recall a sheriff or anything like that. The only discussions that I've seen from this board is about how we fix the situations that we're dealt with. As the Board of County Commissioners, yes, there is a way through RCW that we could take over the jail. That is a possibility. Clark County has done that. Spokane County has done that. Garfield County, within the last month, shut their jail down and started contracting with Whitman County. These are all possibilities. Mr. Gadway, thank you for your comment. You make a very good point, and I sat through that meeting as well. And the sheriff made it very clear that he is elected and he has his realm of jurisdiction, which I respect. I try not to play in other people's sandboxes as much as people try to get us to do that. When it comes to a situation like this, we do have a seat at the table. We do have questions. You have questions, and those deserve answers. The actions that were taken at the meeting start us down a process that we're well aware takes time. The only possibility that could move this any faster, which is a distinct possibility that of course we have to plan for, is what happens if we lose a number of jail deputies or they go out and find work elsewhere or they quit. Then we're in an emergency situation in which we cannot deal for the health, safety, and welfare for those inmates. This board and the sheriff have to plan for that. This winter, when we had pipes break in the jail and we were all freezing in our homes, how close were we to shutting the jail down when it got very, very cold in the jail? Where were those people going to go? What agreements did we have in place? Those are the conversations that we should have had long time ago that we need to be prepared for. We're doing the same thing now. I know the statement and how it was worded on our motion disrupted a lot of people's lives. It kept a lot of people sleepless at night. It was worded based on staff recommendations so that they could start down a process, and a process that's going to take time. I hope everyone stays here for the conversation that we're about to have right after this with staff on the jail and how we're going to get the answers that we're all clamoring for, while realizing that our hands are still tied behind our back in a lot of ways, because it was pointed out so eloquently by multiple of you that this is litigation and we have to protect the interest of the county at large as well. But be aware that we will be as transparent as possible throughout this process to ensure that you guys don't feel left behind. Madam Chair.
So I'm going to approach this in a bulk statement. Larry, I think a lot of your questions revolve around other statements and questions. So if you don't get something answered, please reach out and I'd be glad to help you. I'd like to start with the easy things on my notes, and that is WJ, thank you for keeping the Dallasport Water District things forefront and on our worksheet. You are not forgotten, and hopefully we can move forward with good things and the things that you pointed out that is a benefit for the Dallasport community and the county as a whole. So you're not forgotten. And Adrian, I appreciate your voice of reason pointing out that this does involve major litigation for the county. And that makes a working order very, very sticky for the sheriff, for the commissioners. We have to be so careful. We're not lawyers. We don't know how to approach some of those subjects or questions. And so always the best advice is just don't talk about it. We have to be very careful with where we're at without the county. And I think that's part of some of the talking points here. We can't just absolutely talk away like friends and neighbors about some of the things that are happening. And I appreciate, Rita, that you pointed out that this has been in the news and in the papers since November. This is not a void. Although the way the county commissioners are structured by law and the way we have to work, we can't just have backdoor conversations or conversations without all involved. We are a board of 3. So moving through the processes, I think, for myself, I educated myself from November on, kept asking questions, kept reaching out, trying to find solutions, find answers, what was happening. And that's a hard way to work as a board. So coming forward, as things built and the pressure was on, the county commissioners started to have those hard conversations. And yes, under the RCWs, we can make a move to do what we feel is best for the jail. There are RCWs, and that was qualified before we ever did anything. Legal did qualify that. And also under the RCWs, Sherry, so that you're very clear, we are legislative, we're executive, and we are judicial as county commissioners. So we have all 3 of those responsibilities to keep track of in helping run all the departments and helping work with all the electeds. We cross over all over the place in what county commissioners have to know and what we have to work on. Moving forward in time from that November, as we moved into the county commissioners were pressured, and we had an incredible hard thing, very serious, very complicated problem to address that impact humanity, civil rights, employees, and finances. We had to come together as a team. And I know that I asked 3 weeks in a row to talk about this. The 3rd week after involvement, and Mr. Christopher hadn't committed to involvement to work on this as a team, we had to make a decision and move forward, not wanting to have ex parte conversations. Mr. Anderson asked if I would act as lead to put the team together, and I said yes. So that's the position that put me in behind the doors. I did put together a risk management team that's been working diligently. And prior to that public statement coming out about the intention on the 12th to close the jail, that was crafted so that we could get that out to the public, because the employees needed information. There's specific union laws that we can't cross. There's specific things that have to be activated with the public before we could have full-on investigations and disclosures. And I don't want to call what we're doing an investigation. It's a risk management packet. I can tell you that staff has worked tirelessly between the commissioners, myself, and that staff. Much of the other work has gone to the wayside. Dallasport Water District and other things have gone to the wayside because this is a very, very big and growing packet to look at. Most of the items that, if not all of the items, were brought up in our last public meeting where people came to the commissioners saying, you haven't considered X, you haven't considered X, are on that list and have already been checked off. And we're working forward with questions, answers, and solutions. When that is finalized, as we finally work through that, it will be a public document and it'll be available to the public for everything that we found, that we have holes and plugs and what can we do. In just asking staff this morning, tired staff, how much time do you think collectively we've put in? And it's well over 1,000 hours have gone into this so far. That is just our staff. That does not include cities. That does not include state that are working on problems and looking for solutions, for answers for us either. So it's not an easy lift and everybody's working hard. There is a lot of misinformation. No final decision has been made. No final decision will ever be made until the commissioners have a full qualified packet from the team that I put together. So we're still working forward. And I think that might be all that I can put together from all the statements that I collected. I'm hoping that covers a lot of questions that people had. So we will move back to our.
May I clarify one
Yes,
thing?
go ahead.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify one statement that you said that when Commissioner Zoller was tasked to be the lead on this project, that was done on the afternoon of the 26th of March. You can go back and review the meeting online. Commissioner Christopher had stepped out, so he was not present.
As we're doing clarifications, do I get a chance to clarify?
Sure.
Great. So I had a pre-existing meeting at 2 o'clock that day and I told them that I would be stepping out for 5 minutes for my meeting. I stepped out for my meeting. I came back on via Zoom. The auditor was here giving us an update and I told them I didn't want to vote on that because I hadn't heard the update. She took the time to re-inform me of what happened with her update why I was gone. I thanked her. We moved on in the end of the meeting. Nowhere after that did either one of my seatmates inform me that they had a discussion about the jail while I was gone for 5 minutes. They could have brought it up. They could have advised me what happened, but they chose not to. And they're trying to make it on me that because I wasn't here for 5 minutes, I've neglected it. So go watch the video. I was out for 5 minutes and I was back on via Zoom. They could have filled me in on what happened in that 5 minutes, just like the auditor did. So just for clarification, they're saying, go watch the video, feel free.
Thank you. And it's a good thing for videos. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Public comment, and we have an update on the jail.
Good morning, Commissioners. This report's going to be fairly high level. I know people want details. We're working on the details. We're working tirelessly to get the information that the BOCC and others have requested. We've created a digital project manager, basically a project planning tool that's in test mode. Due to the massive amount of information, duties, tasks we've had and are getting on a daily basis, we're working to get all of this information organized and into the system so we can assign tasks and leads and timelines. Once we do, it will be shared with the board on a read-only basis. Currently, there are a significant number of tasks, literally hundreds of tasks to date that are being worked on. We are trying to address the questions that have been submitted by Commissioner Christopher, Commissioner Anderson, and the list of questions presented by the undersheriff at the previous meeting. And as we receive those, we try and place those in there and assign staff so we can get answers. And we're also at the same time in communication with state agencies and many other impacted folks, as well as ongoing discussions with NORCOR. Current budget reports, payroll reports are now available, so fiscal manager will be updating the jail analysis. She'll do that every time we get updated information, so she'll be working on that. And just to note that the direction from the commissioners is to work on closing the jail. So we are negotiating with the union on the impact of that decision. That's ongoing. Since we're in bargaining, I'm required to only.
Sir, may I interrupt for clarification of the statement?
I think I'd like to let Rob finish, and then if you have a question.
Well, I would have to go back to exactly what he just said.
I'm on my last.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you repeat exactly the direction of the board?
Well, the motion that we received at that special meeting was to work towards closing the jail, which.
So that is the directive you're under currently.
Yes, which
Thank you.
triggered the
What that
need
would look
to
like.
to
Correct.
bargain with the union on the impact of that decision. And so we've done that, and we're waiting for a counteroffer from the union. My point is, I and we can only interact with the bargaining team or the union reps on this issue while we're in bargaining. Otherwise, it's an unfair labor practice. So I can't just communicate directly with the corrections officers or anybody potentially impacted by this. I have to work through the union bargaining team, and I've been in constant contact with the union reps, such as the question about, is the jail going to close on the 12th? No, obviously the jail's not going to close this Friday. There's too much work and too much information. The union knows that. I've conveyed that to them multiple times last week. I can only assume they conveyed that to the corrections officers. That is for them to do, not for me to do. So we're trying to follow all of the rules as we work through many different lanes on this subject. So the goal right now is to get all this information into a planning document so we can track the questions, the answers, and the impact internally and externally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Van Cleve. Would you say that without the move to negotiate with the union, we would not have all of the financial information in order to make an informed decision because there will be costs associated with that negotiation?
True. Yes. Yeah. The impact of the employees, any impact on the employees, we're required to negotiate that impact of what that could be in terms of, for example, could be.
Understood.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And thank you for your time.
Did I answer your question, Commissioner?
Well, you did, but I'm still confused. And I think I'm like 90% of the public that's confused. Because I transcribed the motion that was made word for word. It's quite crystal clear. It's quite adamant. It is for the intent of closing the jail. Now, the date may have changed, but the intent is closing the jail. And you're saying that's still the directive because you're working under the motion that's been made, and this board has not made a motion to unwind this motion or backtrack from this motion. The board would have the ability to make a motion to supersede this one that says, okay, we're going to investigate, we're going to do our due diligence, we're going to get our facts, and then we're going to make a decision what we want to do. That board does have this authority, correct?
That's not for me to answer. I'm working under the direction of the motion that was.
You're working under the directive of the motion, correct? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Madam Chair, if I may.
please.
Thank you all for being here and being part of this discussion. And thank you to staff for Hurley running away, it seems. As we continue to do due diligence in the matters concerning the Klickitat County Jail, I've compiled a set of questions that I believe are essential for us to address in order to make a well-informed decisions going forward. These questions encompass various facets of current jail operations, spanning from the physical infrastructure, staffing, medical care, financial management, inmate programs, investigative procedures, as well as management. My objective is to thoroughly discuss these questions as a board to refine them and potentially expand upon them. Once we've reached consensus, I suggest that Commissioner Zoller, in her capacity as the lead, collaborate with the sheriff and his team to obtain comprehensive answers. These answers can then be presented to the board at our upcoming regular meeting next Tuesday. That would be the hope of when you can get them completed. In full transparency, I would also like to have these questions available to the public by this afternoon if we can come to agreement on what those questions are. And for the record, the questions were provided on my seatmate's desk this morning. So.
Mr. Christopher.
Yeah, I saw these on my desk this morning and I had absolutely no idea where they came from as I read through them. But I did not find the majority of the questions outlandish. And I thought the majority of the questions would provide good information. So to me, it doesn't matter who came up with the question. Now, I would say there are a couple in here that twinged an eyebrow. They seemed a little directed or motivated, but there was only a couple out of 4 pages. So I would prefer to not even call those out publicly, but if you wanted to submit these questions to work at getting the answers, and by all means, the sheriff can refuse to answer whatever he doesn't want to answer. That would potentially alleviate the questions in question, but it would also provide us some good knowledge going forward to make a good and knowledgeable decision. I don't know that we need to literally debate every question of these 4 pages.
That's up to, I just wanted to put it out there for the board. I was looking for consensus to give them to Commissioner Zoller to work with the sheriff. The sheriff agreed, I believe, at last Tuesday's meeting that he would be willing to work with Commissioner Zoller. So I'm just trying to help that along.
My main worry about these is not necessarily the questions. There is a lot of detailed questions here. They're going to take time and research to answer that. Maybe I heard the statement wrong, but I thought you said that these can be worked on and brought the answers back to us next week. Boy, unless you've got about 20 new employees to work on that, I don't know how that gets done.
If I could interject, I just quickly reviewed it because it was on my desk and I had 2 pre-meetings this morning that took up my time. I did not know what Mr. Anderson was going to ask of these questions. Just for the knowledge of everyone, questions that have came in from either side of the commissioners and other staff have been interjected into the document that has been created, the worksheet document. So we've been working through it. I can tell you that we will not come to resolve on the detailed pinpoint questions that I saw. It's going to be way too much to ask of staff to put that together by next week.
So my plan was, we have our staff working 1,000 hours answering the list of all the questions. The way that these were written was these were questions for the sheriff's department, in essence, to work on and answer. So it would not be putting extra work on our staff. That's why as lead, you would be working with the sheriff on ensuring that we can get answers to these.
And I think if they're submitted to Mr. Van Cleve, I believe you and Casey have been working with Carmen and the sheriff on those questions. Mr. Songer, do you want to come to the?
Yes, I'd love to make a comment. I think it's a little biased to expect us to answer a list of questions within a week. I think that's by intention. So I'm more than willing to work with you, Commissioner Zoller, on those questions. But don't try to put biased guidelines on there to make the sheriff's department and the employees of that department look bad.
That is not the intent, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yes, I am fine with passing over these questions and getting the sheriff's department's response to whichever ones they want to respond to, because as far as I'm concerned, even if they respond to half, that provides me more knowledge than I currently have.
And they may have covered some of these questions.
And so if they can do that in a time frame that works for them, and that's the directive, I'm fine.
If I may, I just wanted to add that we have been working with the sheriff. I know that comment came up today a couple of times, and the sheriff has been gracious to work with Casey and I and our sheriff. And we've been over there a number of times getting answers and questions, and we greatly appreciate that. So so today we have been engaging with the sheriff and his staff.
If you didn't get a copy, I'll make sure you get a copy of those, and we can talk about them if you need to too. So between all of us. Okay,
So just for clarification,
yeah.
do we have board consensus to allow the sheriff to have these and get them back to us when he can? Is that the directive, or are we setting a timeline to it?
Well, I mean, if the answer is it'll take a year, then, you know, I think we should put it in the sheriff and let the sheriff come up with his estimate on the time frame. If he chooses to give us a time frame.
I think I'd like to look through them with the risk management team, because I think a lot of these questions may be contained in the document that you're already creating. No sense recreating the wheel, and other items that you haven't covered with the sheriff, we can certainly reach out and get the answers to those if we can.
But again, you are the lead on this, so this
Correct.
was my way of handing off my questions
Correct.
to you in the appropriate process.
Correct, and we'll do that way, Jake. It will be forwarded to the risk management team.
Okay, so now I'm looking for clarification again. So
Okay.
you're no longer wanting to give them to the sheriff, you're giving them to the lead for the lead to use as the lead feels like they're gonna use.
I think I'm clear on the process is that.
I'm trying to be clear.
Okay, so for the board to go forward and make a decision to field these questions would be outside of the process that we've already set up. So that as the lead, I'm more than willing to take those questions from Mr. Anderson and move them forward with Mr. McCleve and the sheriff.
Is he okay with that?
That was the whole intent was I didn't want to just present these to the sheriff. I didn't want to go outside of the bounds where
Good enough.
Lori
I'm
is the
clear.
lead. And I figured there'd be honestly a lot more conversation on the questions. So thank you very much.
Okay. And yeah, you will not have an answer next Tuesday, I'm sure. So, but I'll be glad to pass those on. So approval of the consent agenda. Can we move forward?
Thank you all for coming. If you would like to stay to watch county government in its slow fashion and function, please feel free.
And as Commissioner Anderson just spoke, I would like to thank everybody for actually paying attention to what goes on in this room and what's going on in your county government. And I hope when this issue is long behind us, you're all still paying attention. Paying attention makes good government.
No more on the jail. Discussion on the jail.
No.
Once it's off
No.
our agenda, sir, if
Gone.
it's brought up again, it will be considered out of order. So we'll see if it's ruled that way. Consent agenda. Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda with 13 items.
I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Consent agenda passes with 13 items.
Madam Chair, I move that we pay the payroll warrant certifications and payment approvals and the payroll warrants in the amount of $201,956.38 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 for the date ending April 8th, 2024.
I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Payroll warrant certification passes. So we now are to department update from Jeff Hunter and Seth Scarola, our Public Works Department.
Feel bad, everybody left.
We're just not that exciting, Mr. Jeff.
So sorry. They just know how good you are at your job, so they don't have to stay. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go right ahead, mister.
Okay. Well, we went through consent agenda, so we don't have very much. We've already done that. Thank you. And we have one pay estimate on to Diatley Crushing in the amount of $619,582.29 for our crushing contract. That takes care of that. Go ahead.
So yeah, most of the consent agenda for us had to do with
Yeah.
our upcoming projects. So Sunday Old 8, we've got new contract with Crab to increase the funding for that project and the award. And liquid asphalt, we're still working through the award process. Data collection, ball banking, field work is complete, and most of the analysis is complete, so they should be finishing up for the end of this month. Bridge repair bundles, we're negotiating with the consultant, and the contract is currently being drafted. And other preliminary work continues.
Okay. On maintenance, we're patching on the east side and doing culvert replacement, anticipation of our paving project that's coming up. West End, we're grading and brooming sand. Upcoming facilities projects and events. Work has started at the sales barn, as Mr. Irick had stated earlier. I wanted to give you the heads up. There will be a change order coming. The reason there is a change order is the fact that when we bid the building, we bid it with a just an auxiliary or what we call a invisible quantity for the footings, not knowing, because we didn't know. You have to get, the contractor has to get you the building, and then you have to design the footings. And it's structural concrete's paid by the yard. So we just threw $20,000 in there, or 20 yards. Ends up being much more than that, because the footings are huge. So it's around $120,000 change order. Again, that's not, we anticipated that cost approximately around there. So it's nothing that we disagree with. Okay, Superior Court remodel has started. Demo, we're actually ahead of schedule. We're doing well on that. So everybody's happy there. The events, archery event will take place in the Joan Fry Arena the last week of April. Fuel Island, we're still working on that. More good news, the auditor's voting area project is complete. We're one of the first in the state to have secured voting counting location. So it's a secure room. They walk in, the door shuts behind them, and the machines and everything are stayed locked up. It'll have a pass key, and so it's limited to who can come in. Also, the public can walk in and watch the actual votes getting counted.
Do they have to walk in, or can they see it from the hallway?
They come into the auditor's office, and then when you look in the auditor's office, you could see.
Okay, because I was thinking when it was first thought about, the window was going to be on the hallway, so you can have 30 people out there without crowding an office.
They have quite a bit of room, because if it's changed the look of the office.
Go look at that.
You should, yes. HVAC contracts, we're still on schedule. Radio site hasn't changed. Brings us to Trout Lake Park. I'm going to hand
I
these
love
out.
how I had to do this.
We talked about this, hate to put you on.
That was tricky.
But I kind of have to turn up the heat a little bit. We gave some time. And now with the park opening on May 1st, we need to make a decision on how much we're gonna charge people. I mean, you can always go back and charge, but then you're doing it in the middle of the season. It's much easier to do at the beginning of the season. So the current fees are the far to the left. The first proposal is what we came up with. Second proposal is we've increased it a little, and then we were asked to see what it would be to break even with the expenses. And that's the proposal in the orange/reddish color. at the fees. So basically what that does is it increases your fees. If you wanted to break even, the current fee with a site with no electricity, we'll start with that one because that's the one, and that is full service. That was $18 last year. It would become $40 this year if you want it. That's quite a jump. Our proposal was to incrementally do it and go 20. You could go 30, but again, and then we have the senior discount. We have limited services, which is no water, which is where we start with at the first part of the year. And so that currently sits when we open with electricity, it's $15 and it would be $40 if you chose to make it to where it balances. That's quite an increase. These are based off of what I didn't bring it. I passed it out earlier where we checked the other parks in the area. Tackalack, for instance, basically tried to stay in the Gifford.
Okay.
We did check Peach Beach and those, but some of them are not relative to what we are. But our proposals sits right in the center. That was the first one. The second one would be higher. And of course, the third one is what pays off. So I will leave it at that.
So you're suggesting the second proposal? Is your preferred?
That would be my suggestion right today. And then maybe go to another one the following year, do incremental. We have only had one person even remotely show any interest in hosting. And
What's going to happen if you don't find a host?
we do it. That's what we've done in the past.
And the last proposal, will that put us at break even?
The last proposal puts us at break even, yes.
Using the county staff?
No, that's using last year's expenses, which is the paid host.
Yes.
So if you're not paying a host, then you take the $2,100 off of the 42, the total expenses from last year.
Which then you're trying
Well,
to cover staff.
Wait,
Yeah,
20.
you're or 2,100 a month.
A
sorry.
month. So
Yeah.
what's that total on the camp host?
21 times.
But how much is
About
the
12,000.
county employee not getting done because he's out doing that? So it's not like it's.
Well, no,
potatoes and
it's not
potatoes, so-
an even, it's,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not like,
exactly.
ooh, we get to save money having the county employee do it. There's a cost to that.
Yes,
and
there
and
is.
consequences to that.
Exactly. So the board has approved summer help, which is surprisingly about the same cost as the host, because they're on. I mean, we would not sit the summer help down there though, because they're usually a younger. We have not gone out to bid for that because we haven't talked about that yet. We're still looking at other alternatives, we're still looking at options. Just depends on how many events fill in and that kind of thing. But that hurts our ability to do work to keep up at the other parks. So yes, there is a ramification, it's like Commissioner Christopher said.
If I may.
Yes, please.
Where did you get the $20 for extra vehicles? I've seen $5 and $10 around at a bunch of different sites. I've never seen $20 for an extra vehicle for a night. I like fee number 2, but I think we need to cut the extra vehicle down to $5 or $10.
We actually have it down to 8.
We have it down to 8.
For number 2 or the last.
The second one says 18.
Oh,
No,
20.
it says $20 for
Yes,
an extra vehicle.
yeah. What we did is we just increased it. Basically, we went through and just increased it by another $10 increment. That's how we came up with the second one, the second fee proposal.
Okay.
So you could look at lowering. I mean, we're just being consistent. We would probably lower that. I would suggest that around $10.
Right. And I think it would be 10 and it would be across the board because if
Yes.
an extra vehicle is senior, you're paying 18 for one. That's a lot of work for somebody to figure out. Just set it at extra vehicles are $10 a pop and walk away.
Yeah, and you are right. Sometimes what we found, we haven't had it because our fees are very reasonable. You can charge whatever you want, but please keep in mind it's an honor system.
Right.
So they'll put in whatever they feel like.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that we've seen a lot of that.
How much do you actually figure we're missing out on? People are not putting envelopes in there, not dropping cash, or they're putting an envelope in with $2 and a pound sand sticker.
We haven't seen too much of the.
So it's fairly honest so far.
Yeah, but keep in mind, we had a host there. Not that the host's job was.
Right, but
to
they
control.
think I mean, every time I've stayed somewhere that had a camp host, I thought he was going through the box to make sure I was paying my bill. And I think that's what keeps everybody honest.
Yeah, but he doesn't have that ability, but you're right. It's the perception. Correct.
And I think most people are just honest.
They are. I mean, I pay what they say. When I can. I mean, most people do, but again, if it gets too high, some people will just, because if they don't know and they come here on a regular basis, they only bring so much, some people will pay with cash, but most people don't most people don't carry cash. They pay with cards. We don't have that ability down there. So they carry enough cash to pay that. And if they come down thinking, well, it's last year's, and they might take a couple extra bucks to buy something at the store, or whatever the case may be. But if they come down and bring $20 to pay the camp fee and it's 40, they're gonna go, well, all I got's 20. I guess that's the way it's gonna be.
But I think if you don't have a camp host, you're gonna see your envelopes disappear. But that's just me. Common sense and foresight.
We'll have to get more creative with finding a camp host. We've got just a very little bit of time. I agree. The nighttime problems too.
I
think-
can agree with Commissioner Anderson on the $20 extra vehicle.
Okay,
I
we
think-
marked
I
that
think
10.
10 suffices and keep it the same for everybody, just so it's not confusing.
And I could live with the second proposal as long as we realize, I'm sure you've already budgeted for your overages and this will help you move forward. I would hope to see the next year that we bump up again so that the public realizes it's going up so that we don't have a deficit from the park again.
Yeah, we budgeted for, yes, our expense budget is approximately what it was in the far one over. Just because we don't anticipate. Good news is we haven't seen a lot of down trees this year. But that's a saving grace.
Thoughts on which?
I think everything should be self-sufficient. I have trouble telling one person to subsidize somebody else's recreation. But I also understand that too much sticker shock could cause people to not put an envelope in the box. And you may end up losing more than you actually got. With that, if this board can assure me that whoever's sitting here next year at least re-examines this, I am acceptable on number 2.
And I think you'll be here and bring it forward again.
We will bring it forward again.
Yep.
Yes, we have not had any, there's another person lingering on the outside that I'm not really sure. I don't want to get into the semantics about the whole thing, but not sure that I'd want to bring that person forward as a host, but they will not consider it without pay. But I'm not saying that that's
For a change in fee schedule, according to staff, are we required to make a motion?
We will bring forward an ordinance.
An ordinance. Oh,
That's why we need it. Yes, we have to do it by ordinance. So we will bring forward an ordinance.
Yeah, next.
So
Now, the one thing, sorry, go ahead, my bad.
I was just going to say, you know, if it's the will of the board, fee number 2 with the $10 and extras, and I'm fine. Is that consensus?
Well,
of the
the
board?
only thing I had an issue on, and that's why I'm sorry I interrupted you, because I forgot about it at first, and then it popped in my head, and then I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna forget about it again. Was I still believe the shower fee is too low. I mean, unless it's a timer, like a car wash.
It is a time,
How long is the minutes?
5 minutes.
It's quarters.
I mean, got 5 minutes, I paid $10 at the car wash for the same amount of hot water. I just feel that number's low. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that feels $2.50 is pretty cheap for a shower, but I mean, I don't know that anybody would complain about $5. And if we use a lot of showers, that might make up for some of the savings that we're passing out elsewhere.
Well, the reason we did not move, we kept the shower the same cost is, one, we do very well there, but also to do it, there's an outlay for that.
Mhm.
Because we have to change the machines out, and there's 6 of them. And
It's not just something you go into the back of the machine and change the.
no, they look, you know what, they're an old,
Yeah. it's
they are
really cool.
old. They're set up like the old, or the wash machines. You plug the quarters in, you push the handle in, and there's no.
How much does it cost to change them out?
If you could get the parts total, they're about $1,500. If not, and you have to replace the whole thing, they're about $600 a shower.
So we'd lose half a year just replacing it to change it by 50 cents.
And I'm,
Yeah, so you'd have to go up a lot higher.
I would
to
say we should do it
justify that.
at least $3.
But yeah, you'd have to go up quite a bit to justify your cost of doing.
Well, that's why I'm sitting here. You have currently they're $2, but under number 2, they're $2.50. So you're still changing it. What the hell's the difference changing it for $2.50?
Well, we can go up to $2.50
on the machine.
on the
Got it.
machine you currently have.
Yes, we can't go anything further than that.
Okay,
Then it
that
changes.
makes more sense.
I
Yes,
kind of-
sorry, I should have explained.
I kind of appreciate the 250 makes it reasonable for a shower because a lot of people are coming in off the Pacific Crest Trail.
Yeah.
They're not going to carry a lot with them, but a shower is nice.
But boy,
if you
that-
keep it out there.
California person on that trail paid $20 for that shower. That's tourism.
A lot of people use those showers,
Yeah.
a lot.
Would you say that there's actually more people that use the showers that are the pickers?
You're right. There's a big bunch of those people that are the pickers. And just like Commissioner Zoller said, a lot of Pacific Crest people use them.
Mhm.
Even though they may not stay at the park, they come in and they still use that. And that to the town of Trout Lake is a huge thing.
Right.
Because they come in, they get their quarters
Yeah.
from the town of Trout Lake. From the store there, the restaurant, and then they take their shower, they come back and they eat.
Well, that's why I was looking at them. Like if you're charging $2 and you're making $5 grand, $5,100. If you move that to 4 or 5, which is still a fair price, you've just increased your margin there by about $7 grand. The first year would pay for upgrading the machines alone, and after that, you'd be good. So I don't know.
Well, since we're into the season where we're at, it sounds like it's a discussion upcoming so that we can do it for next year.
Yeah, because
of
then
just The change out.
we'll have to change out the machines to do that. And maybe by going to 250, we could see how much, because again, if we go too high, just like you had said previously, not trying to correct you.
Yeah, but the last one is on the honor system on whether I drop an
Right.
empty envelope in. You're not gonna put blanks in my shower.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't work.
Don't get a shower.
You're right.
It could happen.
And that there is one thing though about it, I guess, when you get there, it's not like there's any other options to take a shower unless you want to jump in the
Cool.
creek.
Mhm.
It'd be a little cool for you.
I'm not worried about people taking a shower and skipping out on payment.
No,
Unless
that's
they wanna
not
do it
possible.
Under the water faucet in the RV area.
Yeah, that would be the only option because you're right. It's not possible
Yeah.
to do.
So I would be very curious to address this during budget time this year.
Yes.
To kind of see where it played out. Let's look at
We'll have
that
numbers
kind of
then,
thing,
Yeah.
and
Let us know what you make.
right?
maybe get a little closer to.
Right, we'll see what the increases did, and what,
Okay,
and, yes.
great. So we'll see an ordinance from you next week. We have board consensus on that.
Okay, we will bring an ordinance forward. Anything else for us?
I was just gonna mention that Oregon State Parks, their showers are $2.
Wow, okay.
They're not, a lot of places, they're not cheap, or they're pretty reasonable. Some places roll them in with the cost of the camp. And then some places just don't have showers. They don't have water, they don't have anything.
I paid $20 for showers and do it quite regularly.
Okay,
You're hunting 12 days in the middle of nowhere, showers.
Well, yes,
Damn.
yes.
I don't have any
Oh,
questions.
okay.
good.
Thank
Good
you.
to
Thank you
see you
both.
guys. Thank you.
Pay estimate?
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, I move that we pay estimate number 2 for 2023 crushing Fisher Hill Quarry WP 54 and Badger Gulch Quarry WP 53 and matching Quarry 44 in the amount of $619,582
Thank you.
and 29 cents. That was very hard to say.
I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
All right.
Hearing
Sorry.
none, all in favor? He's in a hurry today.
I was just reading what he just
Aye.
handed out.
Motion passes for the pay estimate. Thank you very much. Now we have a department update from our planning director, Scott Edelman. Thank you.
Can you advise me on when this, have we scheduled a date for the public hearing on the land use in Stone, or
Yes,
we scheduled the actual?
if you look
date?
at the bottom of the sheet, the planning commission for the Wilson Monroe rezone is May 20th. That's, at this point, it's still tentative, but it's what we've
Okay,
locked
well,
in.
Good enough, because I'm not going to be here for some things, and I was thinking about that last night. I couldn't remember when the date was. So
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay. Before I start, I would love to comment on the fascinating shower discussion. Takes me back to, this will date me, but my very first video game, the lemonade stand, where it tell you the temperature, you'd say how much you were you'd order your supplies, you'd set your price, go up and down by day. So I couldn't believe that my very first video game is actually relevant today to what's going on. Second, I like to just do a little personal news. It's a bad map because it's black and white. I didn't want to use a color print on a personal issue, but
And you want to make that public?
Yeah. Are you sure?
I am, because I'm excited. We have made an offer that's accepted on property,
Nice.
25 acres. I remember in my interview, I was asked, what are you looking for? This is what we were looking for. We're so excited. Hope it goes through. Closing set for May 1st. And so it's only about 10 minutes away from here. Looking forward to,
Venture begins.
yep, yeah, it does.
That's
So that's
great.
really good news.
Great for your family.
And we just got to figure out how to build and where to live in the meantime. So I'd like to revisit that county employee as a camp host discussion sometime.
That's an awful long commute to work.
It would be, yeah. I'll go through a few of these. We submitted that grant application for the comprehensive plan update and solar ordinance. We'll find out May 16th if we got it or not. So we're looking forward to seeing how that results, and that will definitely direct our work for the next year, depending on what happens with that. I would like to contact each of you later this week to talk. I'd mentioned having some preliminary meetings out in the communities. I will give each of you a call sometime in the next few days to get your thoughts on those. Board of Adjustments, just as a reminder, we're looking for a replacement. Don't have any upcoming meetings, so there's not a rush on that, but if that just keeps it on your radar, we're looking for the replacement from either District 1 or 3, most likely. We have a contract with the on-call land use consultant that's still with their attorneys. We are meeting with them next week, though, to discuss workloads for staff and where we feel like we could best use them as staff. And then we'll be meeting with them team to team to talk about the details of that. I'm going to be looking into some budget and cost recovery questions I have. I know that their fees are likely going to be higher than our hourly rate. And I don't know quite yet how that will work out. You know, if we charge $63 an hourly rate, if we go above the fee that we charge. And I think with a lot of the projects we asking them to do will likely be some of the more complex ones that we may want to look at our fee schedule a little bit in the future. If you flip the page over, I won't go into detail on these, but I just want you to let you know that some of these other current priorities, Juniper Canyon, Windmill Repowering, James Dean Aggregate Resource Overlay, and North Lake Cabins, they're all priority projects that have been sitting there for a while, and we're moving forward slowly but slowly still. But we did meet with each of those, at least the applicants over the last couple of weeks, trying to continue our path forward on them. So they're not just sitting there. We are trying to move forward. And also we've received quite a few public comments involving some of those that we are also working on responding to before we move forward as well. Those are all the updates I had this morning. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Oh, that's quick.
Oh, I thought I needed to be today.
We don't
I'm
have
prepared to be
until,
quick.
yeah, we got 15 more minutes. but
Yeah.
Dang, he's like done in 3.
Was.
No, I'm just happy to have you, and I'm happy to get some of these things that have been sitting here for a while moving. So
Yeah, your pending has shrunk and it's in current. So that's awesome.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
where we like to be.
Yeah, good strategy on where you took it.
I'd just like to say congratulations.
Mhm.
Oh, on the, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we're super excited about that.
Good. Well, that was easy today. I don't think the board.
Don't have any other questions?
Nothing.
Well, I'm still trying to understand a little bit.
can't haul all your extra rock and put it on my property.
Okay. There's gonna be a lot of it.
Did you have a question?
No, I am still trying to feel out a little bit of what you're looking for from these weekly reports. So if you ever have feedback, let me know offline and I'd be glad to.
That brings up a good question for me. We don't usually have most of our staff do weekly reports and updates. We did when we had Lori working the department because we wanted a little more hands-on, make sure that nothing was going astray. I guess I would question my seatmates whether you still think that this gentleman needs to come in on a weekly basis, or can we switch that to every other week or every third or every month, or put him back in the regular update location? I do not need an update for planning every week, but if you guys feel the need, that's kind of the question I have.
I'm fine moving to bi-weekly as we're still in this interim stage. I don't think every week unless there's something that needs to be discussed, and then absolutely. But we used to, it's kind of like, how often do we hear from Sharon Carter?
Well, and that's the thing.
You
I do
know.
believe that some of our other departments should probably report more often than they
Right.
do.
So I don't
But,
want to go
yeah,
there.
right.
And I know for a long time, it was like that with planning, and then we went to every month and then every week, and I'm fine with bi-weekly right now as we're still, so we can still get to know you better.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too, as long as that works for you. I know for me, land use planning is a crucial part of our county. And so I want to stay in touch and I want to know what's going on. But if it helps you on schedule, I think the things you working on every other week is just fine. Knowing that you can always come in on your off weeks.
Great.
Anytime you need to talk to us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Cause I do feel like I'm repeating myself a lot.
Okay.
And I think every other week would be good to keep in touch with things that are important.
One thing I will add, I don't want to speak for the chair, but traditionally, if you're not on the agenda on some random week, you can always just go sit in the back of the room, and when there's a lull between people, do this.
Yep.
And we'll call you up.
We'll see you walk in.
So
Okay.
it's not like you're stuck and you can't talk to us for a week. If you need us, just kind of raise your hand in between people. So I wasn't sure if you were aware of that.
Terrific. No, I was not. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Well, we look forward to an update on your progress too.
All
Your
right.
home quest.
I'll plan for my next update in 2 weeks. Is
Okay.
that okay, great.
Hey,
Thank
you're
you.
gonna have a lot done too. Your wife says so. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Cannell, we finished early. If you'd like to go ahead with your elected official report and update from Mr. Cannell and Rebecca Cranston. You must have been seeing we are finishing early. Thank you for coming
Sure.
early.
Just here to discuss pending litigation,
Okay.
How long?
10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be moving into executive session with prosecuting attorney David Cannell, pending issues, updates, some which qualify for executive session in accordance with RCW 42.30.110, Pren L, Pren 1I, to discuss threatening and pending litigation, but issues of a general nature will be discussed in open session.
Would we also like to just break for lunch after that so that we can shut the Zoom off and kick everyone out now?
Are you good with that? So we don't have to double down on our
Fine.
effort? Okay.
So for everyone online, we're going to be shutting Zoom off because we're entering into executive session. We will be back in session at 1 o'clock.